Are you considering launching a business in the legal cannabis industry? Our guest is a seasoned entrepreneur with deep experience in the legal cannabis and the hemp market. She's bringing all her startup seeds today while sharing her gorgeous new CBD product line. Stay tuned for the Startup Life live show. Let's glow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now share founders' startup stories to help newly minted business owners find the solutions and inspiration they need to succeed. And I am so grateful that you carved out time to tune in and up your founder game while cheering on a fellow founder. You never know, you might learn a new resource, a tool, or a solution, or you may have an aha moment that gets you running back to your business and creating more success. If you're joining us live today, please share a yoo-hoo and a howdy do in the comments. Love to hear from you. And if you're watching the replay, please share a comment in the comment threads there so I can swing by and say hi and find out what you're up to. If you like the founder stories and gems you're hearing today, please share this video with your community or on your feed. And thank you for sharing your love on this video, wherever you're watching, because we're live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and Twitch. And if you're tuning in from YouTube, please share your subscribe love and click on the bell icon for alerts. Thank you. And here's the scoop. Your love helps us reach more founders, especially first-time founders, and it helps us maximize the joy and minimize the heartache they are going through on their founder journey. And it's always like, woo, on this journey that we're on. So speaking of journeys, I am so excited to introduce you to our guest, Jen Beck. She's a seasoned entrepreneur with deep experience in the legal cannabis and hemp market. And her prior technology company, Cannabase, was founded in 2013 as the first and largest online wholesale marketplace connecting the legal cannabis market. And after selling Cannabase in 2016, Jen co-founded Jihi with a mission to help high-performing people sleep better and recover faster and rejuvenate from the inside out. Take a look at this. We're going to learn all about this gorgeous, gorgeous product line from our amazing guest today. Why don't we bring her into the room and celebrate her, shall we? Yay! Here she is, Jen Beck. Hi. Welcome, Jen, back to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm so happy you're here to share your founder stories with us today.
I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yay. Where are you hanging from?
I'm in Denver.
Oh, great. So, of course, we'll get more into that as we go along. But that is a state that was the leader in legalizing this wonderful product. And so I know that helps in building your business and your awareness and your deep expertise that you have today. Folks, when you're tuning in, here's what I love to do. And I really encourage you to amplify your brand. Share your business name and website and one-liner, okay, so that we know what your business does. And we will bring it up here on the screen and give a huge clap and celebration, because you never know who's watching the show. A lot of people lurk here, okay? A lot of people watch it when it's archived on all the locations, LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, for example, let alone my website and the podcast. So we can amplify your brand. You never know who's going to give you a call or introduce you to somebody or just connect with you and build a relationship. So hooray for that. And Jen, I hope you don't mind, but before we get started, I just have to do a shout out to my dear, longtime friend, Nancy J. Gray. How are you? Happy birthday to you, my dear friend. Here's the big happy birthday to you. Oh my gosh, your friendship has meant the world to me for 40 years. So I am celebrating you, and I know you're my biggest fan and that you're always watching, and you're probably sitting there going, oh my God, what is she doing? But today is your birthday. Okay, so celebrating you all day is how I'm jamming. Okay, and hey, look who's in here. Hey, Brent from Ottawa, Canada. Always a treat to see you in the comment threads. And be sure to share any thoughts or comments that you have during our conversation today. Thanks for tuning in from Canada. They just had Canada Day. So, Jen, this is so exciting to have you on. I heard you on Mia Voss's phenomenal podcast that I rave about all the time. Everybody go tune in on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts to Shit We Don't Talk About.
Mia's amazing.
Yeah, Mia is outstanding. She's a phenomenal host, and she's talking about things we need to talk about. So I'm always tuning in if I'm in the car, working out, folding laundry. I laugh out loud. My heart, just goes deeper in understanding. And that's when I heard you, and you were talking about Jihi and everything you'd been doing. And I said, I got to get you on the show. Please talk to us first, though. How did you become an entrepreneur? When did you become an entrepreneur? And why did you leave payroll behind to become an entrepreneur?
For me, I don't think being an entrepreneur was ever a choice. It's so deeply who I am. I'm not extremely risk averse, so I can handle and tolerate large amounts of risk, but I am pretty averse to a lot of monotony, to feeling like I'm a cog. And I love everything about the entrepreneurial journey. I love creating things. I love the business side. I love working with people. I have a lot of energy. I just love being an entrepreneur.
So when it first called to you, why? What did you say? Did you say, oh, there's an idea, or here's a problem I want to solve? What happened?
So I was in college and I was studying to become a clinical psychologist. I had a history of eating disorders and wanted to work with women patients. And I started a blog called Mismorphosis, Fearless Thinking for the Modern Miss. And I was taking my journey and putting it into context with these great people I was studying and sharing that with my community. And the blog was doing really, really well. And so I was offered a job as a marketing director for a tech startup down in Denver. And the majority of people who go on to become like clinical psychologists don't go get their master's until like 27. So I needed some gap jobs. Yeah. And that was why I went into tech and started working for somebody. But, my heart, I had a few jobs like that, a few marketing director positions. My heart was never in it. I would get really excited, and then I would feel these walls, the walls of the other departments, the walls of the decision makers. And it never made sense to me. I was incredibly rebellious. And so I was always searching for my way out.
Right. I love that wall metaphor. I hadn't thought about it, but it's true. It's a constraint. It can become handcuffs, it can become a wall, and it pushes you out. So what was your first business that you tried out?
So I met my now husband at this first job, and he was actually my first employee, but we were very young. Nobody cared. And we went on to start a little web agency. He's a phenomenal developer, and I was an online marketer. So I'm the business, he's the guts.
A perfect marriage of skills and capabilities.
I know. I married a back-end developer. He's incredible. I have ideas, he can build them.
Oh, honey, can you? I can imagine his honey-do list.
Oh, I mean, every day. I have an idea. His favorite line from me is, how long would it take? I need a landing page. I need an affiliate dashboard. So we started.
What would the turnaround time be?
Yeah. Do you have time for? And so we started kind of this little agency concept, and we were out meeting with interesting people. And one of the first people I met with was an old high school friend who had started a medical marijuana dispensary. And I asked him, what are the technology needs in this emerging marijuana market? I was so excited about the idea of a brand new industry, especially I was a woman, we were young, we were inexperienced, but all we wanted to do was get out there and build something. So we were like, this is our moment. And that was kind of the beginning.
Oh, of Cannabase? Is that where you started with? Oh my gosh. And you'd already built up online marketing skill sets, right?
Yes.
So you understood what I call the language, the online ease. Mm-hmm. how to communicate, how to build up community, etc. And what was the purpose behind Cannabase?
So Cannabis was really, really timely. When Colorado was just a medical market, so we were a medical
Mhm.
market first, it was
Yep.
vertically integrated. So if you wanted to be a retail dispensary, you had to grow 70% of your own product.
Yeah.
And then there was this little 30% allotment for wholesale. Well, as the recreational market was coming in 2013, that mandatory vertical integration was expiring. And so they were going to allow standalone licenses. You could be just a retailer, you could be just a grow, or just an edible manufacturer. And that was when we knew we could be the person making this new market fly.
Wow. And so there you were, the tech genius and marketing couple for this industry. And you'd been in it enough to understand how this industry operated. So you were providing the database to bring everybody together, right? And communicate better with each other.
Exactly. The idea was kind of almost just like an eBay, the ability to see what was happening in the market, because at the time, everything was still on the phone. Somebody wanted to buy, someone was trying to sell wholesale in the industry, and they'd call someone and go, I got 100 pounds and this is the best stuff and everybody wants it. Got to get it now. I mean, it was really phone, kind of old school drug dealer. Who do you trust? Who do you know? And we were coming from this tech background where we were so passionate about data.
Yeah.
And we knew that if we could have these listings and you could just see how many connections are happening over the listing, how many likes do you have? Let's pull all the data together. What are fair asking prices? Integrating lab data.
What about reviews?
Reviews? Yes, absolutely. So social proof, credibility, supply and demand, and market analytics. So we would send out an email once a week, a newsletter called Cannalytics. And Cannalytics we trademarked and lives on. And the company that bought us, Cannalytics is still a big piece of it. And we would have the weekly Cannalytic data. What is lead going for? What is rec going for? Sativa, indica, hybrid. And we kind of became this really strong pillar of the industry in terms of what was happening in wholesale.
Better than LinkedIn, because you also had the barometer check. So, you had to understand who was growing, how are they growing it, how are they delivering it, what are the different challenges that happen in this industry. And folks, Massachusetts legalized marijuana years ago. How long did it take before we could get medical going really well? It doesn't matter that a state says, oh, yeah, okay, we voted. The people voted, right? It still takes the legislators a while to make it happen. Then you want to bring in retail, then that town has to agree to have a licensed dispensary in the town. There are so many constraints. You think you have a hard time with your startup? The cannabis world. Let's talk a little bit about this, because you got to see who got funded, how did they actually build and grow their business, not just the plants, the challenges they ran into. Can we dive into that for just a second for folks who are in the other 30 plus states where it's not legal? Where are we at on legalization? Do you know where we're at?
I don't know.
It's medical marijuana is legal in about 37 states. So, we've got a bunch that it's still not legal in, but I want you to prepare, because this is a great industry and this nation will have it legalized, in my humble opinion, sooner rather than later. What did you see, and how did you see people handle all the different problems? Because, Colorado led the way for funding, getting money to put into what is not nationally legal, payroll when you're using banks that are FDIC regulated, inventory, like how do people manage that, let alone all the marketing other than it's good stuff, man,
And standing apart with kind of a commodity product.
Right. Can you share a little bit about that part of the industry for us?
Yeah, the licensing and the regulation, I think, is far bigger than anyone really expects. Yeah. So just talking about inventory controls and some of the specific things we had to deal with, we had to account for with Cannabase. First of all, anyone has to have a marijuana license, med, rec, grow, dispensary. And we needed to be sure anyone on our platform was properly licensed and was okay to be there. So we weren't facilitating illegal transactions. When somebody becomes a licensed business, they're dealing with getting licensing. They're dealing with lack of access to banking and capital, like you're talking about. They're dealing with 280E, an outdated tax law that says they can't deduct their business expenses. So they're very, very heavily taxed. We're dealing with constantly shifting regulations. So as part of Cannabase, I was the vice chair of the Colorado Cannabis Chamber of Commerce for 2 years. And what we were always dealing with is packaging is changing, or like you said, packaging is changing in this city, but not this city. And people need to throw everything out. And now it needs to be this kind of childproof, or gummies can't look now like they appeal to kids. So anything that's too friendly, you need to throw that out. The businesses are already dealing with all of this heavy licensing and compliance and incredible financial restraints because of the federally illegal status, both access to banking and capital and taxes. And then you're dealing with constantly shifting regulations. That means you have to be throwing out inventory. Once with Cannabase, I remember there was unbelievable hurdles. There was a change in the law in terms of lab tests. There was going to be a new test that was mandatory. You had to have it. And everybody was failing it. So it was right before Christmas and no one had wholesale product anymore. So all of a sudden, everything on the app went from being $1,500 a pound to $3,000 a pound. And the labs were completely filled for months. I mean, and people were just throwing away warehouses full of product. And so when people think, oh, the marijuana money, they're loaded. No, the states are loaded with tax money because of 280E. The businesses, it is a tight, challenging business to run.
Absolutely. Because how much money are the states taking? 50? It's usually like 50%.
It's like 50%. Well, they're taxed on gross, not net, which is not typical. So it can be, up to 50%. Yeah. It can be more. It can be double traditional taxes, 60%. It can be 60, 70%.
Right. And for folks who are getting ready and getting prepared for this adventure, you have to also remember, let's say you have some folks coming in and helping you with your business. How are you going to pay them?
Right. You have to deal with payroll. You have to deal with a huge one that we had to deal with Cannabase is because there's no credit cards. And at the time, there were no licensed couriers. Right. So we could facilitate a wholesale transaction, but we couldn't move the money electronically and we couldn't facilitate the delivery of it. It all had to be done by the license holder. So what we would do, you'd facilitate a transaction, let's say it's $30,000. And then a lot of times this would move from, the Denver metro area, like up to the mountains, 2-3 hour drives, or from Colorado Springs, which is south, up to Denver, another 2-hour drive. So you would have these like 94-pound bud tenders throwing garbage bags of weed into their car and then driving, picking up 30 grand and driving it home. It was absolutely so dangerous and so challenging. The cash-based business and the lack of access to banking is a huge deal.
Right. And then on top of that, everybody, diversity in the cannabis industry has been a real challenge because, of course, who jumps in right away in any new industry? And when we have a high proportion of folks in prison for dealing pot, which is insane. And we know we just had one of our favorite Olympian athletes run into a problem because she consumed marijuana. This is where things can get really sketchy, and it doesn't give folks inclusivity, all right, which is really reaching out and getting more women involved and getting people of color and other minority owners into the cycle, especially when there's so much legality, fluidity. And if you aren't already on good vibes with the law and taxes and regulation, it's not going to feel really fun to go into something that's so regulated and really handcuffing you. And I wanted you to talk about this a little for us today, because as founders, we have so many constraints, but I wanted to show everyone the contrast moment with cannabis, because things we take for granted, Venmo, payroll, PayPal, all these simple little things that we can do across the border with people, let alone internationally, the state borders, you can't do with cannabis. And so the level of creativity and thinking outside the box and innovation that you folks at Cannabase and everyone in Colorado had to struggle through. Because I know when I went to the New England Cannabis trade show a few years ago, I was amazed to see how much y'all had figured out in a short period of time.
Well, and what you're explaining is still present. And even now in CBD, the business I'm dealing with now, we're still dealing with, we're federally legal because of the 2018 Farm Bill, but we cannot use PayPal. We cannot use Venmo. We cannot use Facebook ads. We cannot use Instagram ads. Our payment processing rates are double, if not triple, what your other e-commerce providers are paying. So even though we're federally legal, we're kind of the stepchild of cannabis, and that need to stay incredibly creative is still at play.
But that's, again, that's not to be too Pollyannish here, folks, but that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. Where there's a will, there's a way legally, and where, we can find innovative solutions to really tough problems with our businesses. So thank you for sharing that deep contrast moment before we dove into what you're doing now, which of course, if anybody has a product-based business, comes with amazing opportunities or challenges, however you want to look at it. Before I do, though, I want to say hi to the oh so wonderful Heather McCormick Rimey. How are you, dear Heather? Love this woman. Everybody go check out Heather. She is an energy healer and a life coach, and she also has her own product lines, and she does these wonderful blessing bundles with sage and flowers and lavender and other things that she's grown on her farm, infused with her delicious energy. So go visit Heather at Wild Hair Ranch. So that's WRH. Oh, Heather, you're going to have to throw that into the comment threads, but I'm so glad you tuned in today. Thank you. Thank you. So I was just going to bring this up again because Jihi, how did you come up with this name? How did this idea come to you, Jen?
Yeah, Jihi is the most beautiful word. So it's a Japanese word for compassion. And a translation of the symbols is that Ji can roughly translate to spreading joy, and He translates to easing pain. And so it's this beautiful picture of compassion and compassionate self-care. When we got into the cannabis industry, we were really there for the business opportunity. I was an entrepreneur in my heart. We wanted to do something big, and this seemed like our moment. We were young, we were here, we were good at technology, we were connected, and then we got funded and we were able to build something with Cannabase. But what we discovered when we were in the industry was the most beautiful, amazing community of people that were these advocates for this plant, this cannabis plant.
Yes.
And it was inspiring and transformative and energizing, and one of the most beautiful experiences of my life being part of this community. And when we ended up, we exited, and Cannabase went on to its next stage, and we were thinking about what to do next. And I had gotten very deep into meditation and some personal growth. I had a daughter, and we were watching the products coming into the CBD market. And they didn't capture at all this energy, this magic that we had seen everyone advocating for and fighting for. And then we had become advocates for with the chamber and going down to DC and advocating for this plant and advocating for banking and advocating for natural healing. And it didn't feel like the products we saw being launched. And largely what we saw being released, there's a lot of home brews. Now, the problem with the home brews is I came from a compliance side of cannabis, from the technology, managing the supply chain, lab tests, to my time with the chamber. We understood everything that went into packaging, compliance, purity of product. And we wanted to build something that we treated like a licensed cannabis business. That's how well we wanted to design and produce the products. Even though CBD is not regulated. Cannabis is heavily regulated, CBD is not regulated. So that was the first piece, was not having a home brew, having something that was at that highest standard of integrity. But then the next piece was what's in the product itself. A lot of what's out there is white labeled. It's big vats of lotion with CBD pumped in, and then people throwing their labels on it.
And sold at gas stations.
Getting into as many gas stations as you can. That wasn't it. That wasn't what we saw the opportunity of this beautiful ingredient and this beautiful plant being. And so we set out to create something very different, something that would be trustworthy for people who were unsure, who were kind of curious, but weren't pot smokers, weren't in their 20s, and then weren't, in this kind of elderly, really treating themselves, self-medicating. That's a different demographic where it's very clinical, it's very pharmaceutical. We wanted something that captured the energy and the magic of CBD in a really mature and trustworthy way.
Wow. And you had to, figure out the brand. You had to come up with that gorgeous name. I got to tell you, Jihi is absolutely the joy of cannabis and relieving the pain that, can happen to our bodies any day of the week. And especially as you begin aging, things just get a little creakier. And also, it has, well, you can talk more about the ingredients and how did you come up with the product itself? How did you decide, well, where in the CBD product lineup did we want to land? Because, there's a lot of beauty, there's a lot of health, there's a sports related. Where did you land with Jihi?
Yeah, absolutely. So what the data was showing us was that the majority of CBD consumers were young liberal cannabis consumers who were interested in CBD. So you see a lot of products targeting that Gen Z demographic. And then you see kind of that more elderly or aging, very clinical approach, fix your arthritis with 1,500 milligrams of CBD. What we envisioned was something that was beautiful for a mature audience. So I would say 30 to 55 or 60, very trustworthy. We believe this is the group of people, this is the audience that would most benefit from the reasons people seek out CBD. Trouble sleeping, discomfort, like you said, slower recovery from exercise, more prone to injuries. And then in our skin, that fine lines and wrinkles, our skin cell turnover isn't as quick. When you're 20, you're going to love our products. They're fabulous. But when you're 35 or 40, you're going to enjoy our products. You're going to really, really feel the benefits in a different way. But this presented its own set of challenges. There's a reason that there are people in, a lot of pain that are gravitating to these clinical products. And there's a reason that Gen Z is like, yes, let's try it. And they're young and they're liberal and they're interested. This audience that we were most interested in capturing is more delicate, not necessarily gung-ho about trying CBD. Is it going to make me high? Does it have any real benefits? Is it a fad? And the products need to be really good. My mom is not that interested in CBD that she's just going to throw something on her face to see if it works. It's got to be something her dermatologist loves, her esthetician loves, something that is going to complement her existing skin routine. So that was how we showed up for the challenge. How do we build beautiful products for this demographic?
I got to tell you, right now I'm having for so many reasons. That last woohoo especially. I want you to even rewind and replay the last few minutes and listen to Jen's incredible data-based, phenomenal marketing, really understanding her customer persona. And I know your background, you got really deep into tech marketing, et cetera. But what you just did, and I'm just looking really quickly for my customer persona. Folks, this is so important when you, especially as a product, but service as well, really understand who you are selling to. All of this important information, it's called data. And that's what Jen did. She and her darling, you're doing this with your man?
We're doing it all together.
Yeah. Bless your hearts. Done that. Have the therapy bill to prove it. And but no, seriously, this is so important, getting the data and also really knowing and acknowledging here, Gen Z, here's, aging, here's wounded, here's this. Where do we want to fit in? And what are we looking at? See, this whole psychographic, what is motivating this person? What are their behaviors? What are their expectations? This is what you've done so well, Jen. Is understanding. And then folks, when you understand that audience, then you start branding and communicating to them, but you start formulating for them, right?
Yes.
So please talk about that so I can have another Andelicious moment.
Yes. So our product, we really wanted to build something that would stand up to the highest standards of clean beauty, of, being mindful. Mindfulness is at the essence of Jihi. The name means compassion. And we believe that when we're compassionate with ourselves and our self-care, we can reflect that into how we treat others and the world around us. And so everything comes back to that mindful, compassionate living. So our ingredients are the highest standards of clean beauty, no fillers, no toxins, no dyes, no scents. Everything is natural. Vegan, cruelty-free, absolutely. And then we have powerful active ingredients that complement the CBD. So you're not just buying CBD in a tube. Let's start with our face serum. A lot of people think CBD skincare is a myth because most of it does not make it into your bloodstream. And they're completely right. It doesn't, but it doesn't need to. There's endocannabinoid receptors in the skin, in the dermal layer, and they have a lot to do with helping the skin maintain balance and feel great. So the endocannabinoid system in our skin helps regulate oil production, increase skin cell turnover, reduce the signs of inflammation, which is what happens when we break out or we have eczema or psoriasis. We can't heal those things, but we can help reduce the inflammation associated and make you go back to feeling and looking your best.
Right.
But our serum is not just CBD in a bottle. It has hyaluronic acid, vitamins B3 and C, aloe, so soothing, hemp seed oil, which is different than phytocannabinoid rich hemp extract and can be confused, but hemp seed oil coming from the seed is incredibly nourishing for the skin. We have camellia. We have a light amount of rose. It's a beautiful, beautiful serum that's deeply hydrating and is amazing for aging, sensitive skin.
I love that. Let me just pop this up here because, we've got a little discount happening here on the Startup Life live show. So if you use code ANDE live 30 at the checkout at jihi.com, JIHI.com, you can go ahead and try these beautiful products out with a nice little discount, which I am so grateful for. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
So how did you choose the right CBD? Because I know from talking and reading, et cetera, there's different levels that you're going to use. There's full spectrum. There's, as you said, it's just not CBD in a bottle. And how do you source your product?
So we use a very, very high-end manufacturer. We actually went out, we visited small towns. We met with growers that we had known from our cannabis experience, and we ended up moving with a very large scale. We went very pharmaceutical in our manufacturing, and we felt that that was important for shelf stability, for being retail ready. We wanted everything to be incredibly pure and consistent and stable were our main goals. We used full spectrum CBD in both our serum, because then you have some of those synergistic effects of the other, terpenes and small amounts of cannabinoids in the oil, as well as in our oral tincture, because that's how you can get, the maximum benefits. But for our Merriment Body Balm, we use CBD isolate. It has absolutely no trace amounts of THC. Now, this comes up with everyone who dives into the product. So just for 1 minute, even our products that are full spectrum, and they say it has less than 0.3% THC to be legal hemp extract, and ours do, but ours test actually at like 0.0003. So the amount of THC, I think you'd have to drink our whole inventory for it to light up THC on a drug test. There is no way it's going to get too high, right. But there is that trace. Our Merriment we designed with CBD isolate. So there's no trace of anything. And that was to make it the most athlete-friendly product as possible. So we said an athlete that's getting drug tested can really lather up and never even have to lay awake at night. That said, we have people that are getting drug tested that use our Reverie tincture. I can't imagine it would ever do anything.
Right. And to me too, coming from your background with Cannabase, which you sold in 2016, right? So, you know this industry inside and out, the players, the sketchy people, this is another brand enhancing moment, in my opinion, because it brings years of credibility to your understanding of how a really good product should look and feel and be in the world. With that name, your product isn't just delivering physically, it's delivering mindset wise, because folks, where your focus goes, energy flows, right? So Jihi, you're focusing on that compassion. And of course, I know you are all about spreading joy with your product. But now you've got all this figured out. You've got your supplier worked out. You got, the formulation has been pulled together. How did you figure out that look and feel? Because again, it could have been rainbow colors, right? How did you go with the black and white, and why?
And it is rainbow colors. This is so funny. And let me grab this for you on the boxes. And we're actually going through a huge social media overhaul right now that is going to showcase more our bright, vivid packaging colors.
Bring it in. Let me bring this up.
So let's see here. Oops, on my camera. So this is our Merriment Body Balm. Why can't I find that? And then we have these fun patterns on each side that are kind of flat, glossy. Here's the petal milk. Each product has its own mood. So our Reverie is very sleepy. It's ethereal.
Lavender feeling. Yep.
Exactly. The bright petal milk. And then the Merriment. So there's these bright, joyful packaging, but inside is this very high-end, classy, and that's kind of the corporate feel of the website and our marketing that you've seen. So these are all Myron glass, UV resistant. It's a very wonderful experience when you're actually using the product. This packaging took us, and the bottles took us over 6 months. We had a whole set of designs and we looked at it and it sparked no joy. It was just like, this is what's expected. This is good. This is Jihi, it's good. But we wanted, so we had this exercise. My husband had this exercise as we were working through trying to figure out the packaging. And we would sit down, and he's not a big meditator, but he's naturally much more grounded than I am. I am practice. But we would sit down and close our eyes and ground, and we would visualize like water. And then we would stick our hands in this visualization. We'd stick our hands in the water and we would lift the packaging out. And we'd say, what does it look like? We're trying to pull it out of the water because we knew it was there. We knew the brand so well. We knew Jihi and the Jihi Joy. It was also high-end and mature, but its color and its brightness comes from the rich botanicals and its connection with the earth. And we're not a beige brand. We're high-end, but we're not beige. How do you make all these pieces come together? And it took us about 6 months to pull these guys out of the water.
I pull these guys out of the water. What a great exercise. Because folks, you've got to not only be vibing with your product line, how it looks, how it feels. I mean, you also have to vibe with the tribe who's going to be purchasing your product and services, and how, and that emotional commitment to deliver that vibration. That's called the brand promise. So it's so important. That hard work is worth it, and paying the good money, folks, for really good help with executing the branding is so important. I mean, Andelicious is all over my branding. That's my brand. My promise is I will bring you edutainment that's delicious with the Andeliciousness of it all. This is what you've done with Jihi, and you took the time, Jen, which is so very, very important. And I agree with Richard O 100%. He's a CBD and THC expert, I might add. And his stellar branding, I agree, Richard O. Unbelievable and so remarkable. Thank you for that. Now, the next thing you had to do was you pulled all of this great in, the look, the feel, everything. You really understood your customer personas. And now you've got to go prove, right? You have to go to that place where, okay, now we're going to launch. And even though we've talked to so many people and everybody's heard what we have to say, we still have to prove that value prop. Not an easy thing once you launch. How'd that go for you? What did you learn?
Oh boy. Well, I think entrepreneurship is a choice to commit to growth. Like, you're just going to grow all the time in the most you can. And I think it's the road for me that provides the most growth. And my growth in that period of the business of launching it and getting our first customers and, being able to articulate the message and connect all these pieces in the real world. You do so much in private. We built Jihi in private for 2.5 years. And then we put it out into the world. And when we put it out into the world, we were still in quarantine. And that was really challenging because with Cannabase, we had a full office, 10 employees. And then I was meeting with people all day. I was always in meetings, and you see faces. You see where people stop listening. You see where people get excited. You see where the questions, and you start to feel the message and you get that energy. We launched into a vacuum. I mean, I did a video on my Instagram with my daughter's alphabet puzzle behind me. Like, hey friends, I have a face serum now. And it was it was like this jumping off a cliff. And what I had to accept.
No trade shows. Okay, folks, normally you'd be showing up pop up something to start promoting your product and getting the feedback, getting all the great buzz. You
Throw a
couldn't
launch
do
party.
that.
Yeah, everyone come see the products and we're going to feed you and you buy something and tell your friends. I mean, we couldn't even go. I hadn't been out to dinner in a year. I mean, it was really,
Trust me, just buy it, okay?
yeah, it's really good. Look at our website. It was a hard energy exchange. It was a lot of output into a vacuum. And so my first lesson was to ground and have a lot of patience, which is not my strong suit. I am fire, and my husband is earth, and together we can usually be a chugging along train. But I had to really, really pace myself, especially after the wild ride of growing a technology company with lots of people, lots of feedback, very quickly, quick sale. Everything was very fast.
Canalytics left and right.
Canalytics, numbers are flying, people are signing up. And I had to allow it to be slow. And what really came to me over time as we started to build it was that we would build this business one relationship at a time. And that was not the mindset of Jen, the technology person, where all I ever cared about was scalability. If something wasn't repeatable, fast, and without me, I wasn't even interested. It was just about creating that machine that would build the machine. And now I had to show up. I had to show up for one relationship at a time and be very slow. And as we did that, it all really began to click and work. So working with our first spas and understanding those estheticians, and then the estheticians loving it and training us how to move into the treatment room. And now how does that work on a retail level? And then supporting them. Okay, you guys need more collateral. Okay, you need more physical product. Okay, let's now make that work on our website. And we had to do that in each of our distribution channels. We had to do that for our one-to-one customers. We had to start doing that in every area of the business. And I had to release my attachment to scalability day one. And I had to release my attachment to being able to be removed from the business, because to me, a successful business was one that could work without me, and recognize that today I am showing up and I'm doing this one relationship at a time. And from there, each of those relationships, when I just released my timing and my expectations, you could see the energy and the fire and the spread. And that's been so amazing. Now the world's opening back up, and every time we get out there, the energy is back again. But we had to go slow.
Jen, from the minute you started off with saying the growth opportunity that entrepreneurship brings, and practicing practicing patience, especially when you're a fire sign. Yeah. Really hard, but I know founders who are tuning in, you're going, oh, thank goodness I have permission to build one relationship at a time. Thank you, Jen. Oh, I have permission to let it unfold, because sometimes you cannot push.
You cannot push your way there. And I think that's one of my biggest, spiritual journeys, I think, of this lifetime, is that I can't push things there. And remembering that there are infinite possibilities, and that the universe or the future might unfold even better than I'm expecting. And so when you push so hard to this outcome you've decided you need, you can be blind to the actual signals and the actual opportunities around you. And so as an entrepreneur, the responsibility is that cash burn. It's really managing your resources so that you give yourself the time you need to allow it to unfold. And that's the responsibility. And then showing up and listening to that feedback. And I think Jihi has been a really interesting spiritual or growth experience for me, because the brand of Jihi is a response to my past of eating disorders, always wanting to push, be perfect, being a workaholic in technology, trying to be one of the boys, trying to push, and really collapsing postpartum, having this daughter saying, I want to settle into myself, and I want to be here for myself. I want to be here for her. And Jihi's about this self-compassion and slowing down, and the value of rest, and the value of recovery, and how we activate our power in that space. And when I find myself leaving and moving back into burnout zone because I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling pressure, then you know what happens with Jihi? Nothing. It stops working, because it's no longer being built in the vibration of which it's intended. And the idea that we can find power from rest is how Jihi's been made. And that's what I now have to show up for as a leader and live.
Whew. Okay. I just on so many levels. What you said right there at the tail end. I want to say this to that. Okay. Take that in, folks. The power from rest.
Mhm.
Okay. The hustle culture is so strong. Women really love to ram it down each other's throats, just saying.
Yes.
And we need more role models like Jen reminding us power from rest. We are, especially when you're really tuned into your feminine energy, you don't need to be the spear out hunting. Okay. You can be the gatherer and creating the fertile ground for your business to grow. And I know it's really hard, right, Jen? Because that's what we keep hearing all the time. Grow. How long is it going to scale? When Jen talked about the responsibility of understanding your runway, how much cash flow you need, where do you need to decrease expenses so you can have a longer cash flow? What kind of investments do you bring in? Because angel money will be there with you for the long haul. VC money, they want to flip you. Okay. It's flip that house when you're working with VCs. So you have to understand where you are in your cycle and where that kind of money is appropriate. Jen, thank you for that outstanding wisdom that you shared and what your business has taught you. I've learned so much from that. I'm almost speechless, but I can't be speechless because I'm on a live show, for crying out loud, and I got to keep the flow going. But I'm going to agree with Aristotle here. Genius. 100% genius. Thank you for that. I'm just going to sit with that for a moment, everybody. Those of you who are listening to the podcast or watching the replay and video, to take that in. That's a powerful lesson. And, our businesses are like our children or our pets. They teach us so much about ourselves. And each business has a different personality. Cannabase, boom, lightning, boom. It met all those needs that Jen had at that time, right? And it exists, and that's what it was supposed to do. If your business is that level of high intensity, great. But the point is that each business has its own soul journey. And Jen took the time out to sit back and say, okay, I'm listening. I'm not going to be attached to the outcome I think should be happening. I have my big vision, which is get this product to as many people who want, need, and are in vibration with it. But I'm doing my job, showing up every day, providing this great product. Instead of push. And boy, the pandemic taught that to us. Okay. Whew. I'm going to be watching that a few times and I can see the snippet coming out of that. Hey, Mia Voss, we were glowing on you earlier today, talking about how amazing you are. What a phenomenal goddess. And thank you for putting in the incredible product sponsor moment here, saying, Jihi, products are amazing. And Mia, we were glowing on how I met Jen through your phenomenal podcast, Shit We Don't Talk About. Go find it, everybody, and tune in. Okay, Jen. So pandemic unfolding, you got some sales. What does customer acquisition look like? Let's talk a little bit about that, because folks, it doesn't matter how much money you raise. If you don't have customers, it means nothing. And if you don't understand what it takes to bring on customers and how much it costs and what your LTV CAC ratio is, et cetera, you got to learn it. Go ahead, Jen. What's that been like?
Yeah, so we have multiple distribution channels, direct to consumer, retail, and then spa and resort. So each of them have their own sales cycle and customer flow. The direct to consumer model is obviously where we are most intimately connected with our customers and where we've invested the most time. How we have found the number one way that we have acquired customers, and we knew it would be big, but we didn't know it would be this big, is through our brand ambassador program. So our brand ambassador program, especially friends, people that have tried the product, people that buy it, customers, and then refer it. Anybody that buys our products can get an affiliate code and can share it. That's been huge. There's a lot of CBD companies and there's a lot of noise in the CBD space, but less than 20% of Americans have actually tried CBD. So what we find is there's an overload, there's a wall, I don't want to hear any more about the CBD thing. But if you can move around that wall and say, do you want to hear about these products that have really changed my life? People are actually really all ears and really curious.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you made a conscious effort not to do network marketing, multi-level marketing. You said, nope, we're going to go direct to consumer. We're going to do it this way with brand ambassadors.
It's really funny you say that, because this is very little known about Jihi. The first 6 months, we were at development for a couple of years before we went live. The first 6 months, my vision was to create a multi-level marketing company. Now, the reason was I always thought that multi-level marketing was the most fascinating business model. And I loved the idea of empowering women and helping them make income. I saw all of the big money in cannabis and all of this spend and how much goes into marketing. I thought if you could put that in the hands of everyday people, this would be amazing. And we know that there's these advertising restrictions, and we know that people buy by recommendation, and we know that you need education. So it's a perfect fit for the multi-level
word of mouth.
It's perfect. Yeah. But as we dove into it, the vibration wasn't right. And, there's first, a lot of people have been burned by multi-level marketing companies, and there's a lot of anger and a lot of pain, and there's a lot there to overcome. And the second piece is that in multi-level marketing companies, it becomes more about recruiting than the products. Yeah. And our products are unbelievable. We are so proud of them. I live on our products. I use them all the time. The biggest fight me and my husband have is how much of the products I consume. And then I go through too much of them, and I'm like, hey, I'm getting paid in Jihi. I'm going to feel great, and I love them. We did not want it to become about recruiting. We wanted it to be about the products. And we thought we can get 90% of the benefit just using affiliate codes and paying out great commissions and giving people great bonuses without making it this recruiting pressure, because the recruiting is happening naturally. The spreading is happening naturally. And that can be on our end. And we can then, and so it's about the brand ambassadors, and then it's about that customer post-purchase flow. So when people buy, then getting emails from us, at regular intervals that say, here's how to use them, because we have these deceptively simple products, a body balm, a face serum, a sleep tincture. But really, these 3 products can elevate your whole life. I look at it like a Core Power or a Peloton, where you take these simple things, yoga, the bike, but they transform them by making them a piece of your lifestyle, and all of this support and this inspiration on top of this amazing delivery. The Peloton's the best bike class, and Core Power is an amazing yoga class. Our products are amazing, but they're complemented by so many tools, resources, meditations, high vibe inspo, that we are going to put you in a place of Jihi. It's an experience. And so we can do that so well online and so well through our brand ambassadors.
Okay, because I'm going to have another Andelicious moment here. Did you hear Jen just talk about the experience? This, again, is that brand promise that creates brand ambassadors and loyal brand fans, because you are giving them an experience they crave, and then they learn to expect. And every time you show up, you are delivering. You even have a Facebook group, a Jihi Facebook group, right? Talk a little bit about that, because I'm always inspired by what you're sharing there.
I know. I love having you. And it's small, and anybody is welcome to join. And I'll let you in. It's a private Facebook group, which we did because we are at such odds with Facebook and Instagram. So I said, I'm just going to make something private they can't get in the middle of. And it's a private Facebook group called Jihi Wellness. You can find it on Facebook. And we're just sharing some of the deeper wellness tools. We have a lot of philosophies around self-care, and self-care as activism. Self-care is a way to step up against the man and say, like, I matter, and I can find my power in my self-love. And it complements the whole Jihi experience. And so, yes, this private Facebook group, we share meditations, moon cycles. It's just fun, and it's supportive. And it's just another piece of the Jihi journey.
And everyone's craving community, more so now than ever. And you're an online marketing expert, so you know how to build community online. But there is still, again, that experience that we crave in connection and celebration and conversation. There's a lot of C's out there that can.
And that's what compassion for ourselves. And I'm sorry to cut you off. I just know we're at the end here, and I want to say this. One of the ideas of Jihi compassion is that in Eastern medicine and energy work and chakra work, our heart space is where we form relationships, but it's where we house the pictures of ourselves. And one of the biggest pictures of Jihi is the idea that when we have compassion for ourselves, we can have compassion for others. And I think there's a huge culture of female competition that comes from our own self-punishment and our own self-punishment and our own driving ourselves too hard. And when we have compassion and love for ourselves, we can find that place of community. And that is what Jihi's about. And that's why we have our groups and we have our brand ambassadors. And it's about connecting with others and growing something beautiful together, which starts with loving and caring for ourselves.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And folks, women were assets until about 100 some years ago. So of course there's competition. We were always competing, as Jen said, to the man, who was going to take care of our children, who was going to take care of us, because we were not able to take care of ourselves for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So we still have a little bit of that built into our nature. So have compassion for yourself when you're feeling competitive and envious and all of those things. And Jihi is here to remind you of that compassion through your self-care and loving and honoring yourself. So I imagine that even when you put on the product, it's about loving and compassion. Yes?
Absolutely. The products
Yeah.
are heavily ritualistic. I mean, we have this body balm, which is incredible. I have a lot of joint pain. You put it in my hands and it makes me move again. It's also really
Yes.
cooling and calming. It's amazing. And a lot of people said, get it in a stick so I can just put it on my body and move it. And I fight that, because if it's on a stick, you're not rubbing it in. You're not massaging the muscle, which is where the
No.
fresh oxygenated blood comes in. It's where you take that moment, you breathe it. It's in a beautiful scent. It's really good for your sinuses. It clears everything. And that moment of self-care, it takes 1 minute, is what's really transformative. And then you have the rest on your hands and nails, and it really repairs the nails. You have the best nails of your life.
Woo, woo.
But it's about holding on to that ritual and taking that time for you, and not just popping a pill or rubbing a stick on really quick. Okay, I feel better. I'm going to go back to burnout.
Right. Yeah. Hey, Charlie, it's like to say here in Boston. Hey, Charlie. So good to see you. And yes, so many MLM CBD companies out there. And Jen is really right. That recruitment part of MLM. I mean, look, I recommend everybody try some multi-level marketing out in their life, because there's so much great inspirational training along the way. But boy, the recruitment is really tough. Thanks for swinging by, Charlie. And also, Richard O, I agree. Brand Ambassador Program. Here, this is what happens on YouTube when you share an emoji. It shows clapping hands, clapping hands, clapping hands. And Mia loves the rejuvenating face serum. Is divine. And yes, she says, happily, I can feel the vibe coming through. I'm one of the first to try the products and I'm hooked. Woo woo. Customer satisfaction moment right there. Thank you, Mia. Hey, Jonathan, thanks for tuning in. So happy that you're here. And yes, love it. And don't you just love the philosophy behind Jihi? And it's from your lived experience, Jen. It really is that you had these types of experiences that brought you to this moment in time to bring this beautiful product and birth this beautiful product. So thank you so much. What are you working on right now that's really hard that perhaps members of the Startup Life Live community can help you with? Open doors and add wind to your sails.
I think we're still building the business one relationship at a time. So if somebody is in a wellness business and is interested in CBD, and like you were saying, everyone should have that MLM experience. I think we can give you the beauty of the MLM experience without the recruiting pressure, saying, is this something that maybe you would want to add to your business, something you would want to offer your clients? So we're always looking to connect with those people and see if we're a fit for one another. We have a lot to give. And then we're working on, retail, especially spas. The biggest thing I can ask for help with is we have our Spreading Joy initiatives. So Spreading Joy initiatives are how we give back to the community. This summer, we're launching our first Spreading Joy initiatives. You can check it all out at spreadjoy.jihi.com. But our first initiative is called the Long Haulers, and we are celebrating the nurses who worked so hard during COVID, facing huge amounts of anxiety, depression, and burnout, trying to keep their own family safe while trying to keep us safe. And now that we are hopefully close to the other side of this pandemic, we want to refill their cups, we want to spotlight them, and we want to ask them for their mental health recommendations. So we are working with spas. We've got a few amazing ones on board, some other wellness brands. We're gifting care packages across the country. So we need nominees for nurses on our website. Yes, visit our website, nominate a nurse you love, or if you have a relationship with a spa, somebody that might, or a brand, somebody that might want to be part of giving back, connect them with me. And we are trying to build the energy and say thank you.
So http spread joy.
Yeah, https://spreadjoy.jihi.com. And if you go to the Long Hauler page, you can nominate nurses, and we're still looking for partners, but the program is gaining a lot of energy, and we're really looking to bring in as many people as possible.
Excellent. I'm going to have that link in the notes, everybody, because that's beautiful. And of course, from the earlier conversation, honey, how long would it take? Can you make the Spread joy page, please.
Yep. Maybe spread joy page. And he actually made it all from scratch with widgets in the back. And it's actually a very cool little microsite.
Hey, Richard O. Speaking of, mind melding, right? I heard you.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, please be involved.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes. Thank you, everybody. If you have anyone, a first responder, the nurses especially, exhausted from this last year, that the folks at Jihi can help, please do. And also those tuning in, remember, you can hop on over to jihi.com and use code AndyLive30 at the checkout. And you can hydrate, rest, and restore this summer with 30% off your first Jihi purchase. Of course, I'll have the links and the code in the show notes as well. Oh my gosh. Can you share with us, because, this founder journey that we're all on really can someday suck the spit out of us, right? What do you do when that happens that helps you tune back in and get turned on again in your business? What founder mindset hack can you share with us?
Yeah. I think it's always about letting go of the ego and the part of me that thinks I know what I need to look like to the world, or what Jihi needs to look like, or what we need to accomplish. And it becomes about remembering that I am a soul in a body having an adventure. And this adventure, Jihi, is the greatest thing I believe I can offer the world. And it's how I look back at 18-year-old me and I say, I'm fighting. I'm doing my best. Do my best to make a great world and make something that I'm really proud of. And I try and sit in that vibration of gratitude for this opportunity, and in being proud of myself and letting go of what it becomes and what that exit needs to look like, or what the future holds. The more I can ground in the present moment, the more beautiful the journey is. And that is the space where I can connect to others and build the business one relationship at a time. I can't do it in the future, and I can't do it in the past.
Oh, the gift of the presence. Thank you for that. And one more question, because I love hearing this, and you've shared a lot of this throughout the show, but one final word around how entrepreneurship has served you both personally and professionally.
Entrepreneurship is, I think, there are some women who say, I knew from the day I was 10 years old, I wanted to have 3 kids and I wanted to have a golden retriever. And from the time I was 5, I was making little businesses in my backyard. And when I was 9, I was giving out a newsletter to the neighborhood that reviewed The Parent Trap. And, I think maybe I was 12 then, which is kind of old to be doing that. But being an entrepreneur is who I am. And I show up to the calling with so much gratitude and humility. And, I was reading this amazing investment book. I'll give you the link if you want to put it in the show notes. I can't remember the name, but it's really amazing. And there's this Indian investor, and he said that his dad had a string of failed businesses. And I loved the story, though, to the point where they couldn't pay rent or they couldn't buy food. Mm-hmm. He said his father was never fazed by it when they would lose everything. And his dad said, you could put me naked on a rock and I would start our next business. And I don't think I've ever related to another human being more. You could put me on a rock naked and I would start the next business. And that's the journey I'm here for, not the accumulation of stuff.
I can see that on the pillow too. You can put me naked on a rock and I'd still
my next business. And that's where the growth, the growth is if we're naked on a rock. The growth is not in seeing our success reflected around us. That's the ego. So it's all a practice.
That is right, folks. And anybody in yoga knows it's a practice. Any type of self-care, everything is a daily practice. Your business is a daily practice. Showing up for it, fully open for the transformation of it. Thank you, Jen. Seriously, this has been a phenomenal conversation. And we've got a lot of folks say, Aristotle, big stars in his eyes. I agree, Aristotle. She's coming from our place and I know you. So I know that this is really resonating with you. And yay, Mia, I agree. That's why I kind of stumbled there. When Jen was sharing so many gems, I was like, I just want to stop and take it all in. And could you all just wait for me to come back? So thank you for that, Mia. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jen, for sharing your insights, your story, so many seeds and gems from your lived experience as an entrepreneur. Your wisdom has helped so many of us today. I'm going to pop you in the green room and wrap up the show. Don't go anywhere. Oh my gosh. Seriously, I almost thought I'd have to put the show on pause to take in some of those gems that Jen was sharing because they were so profound. And I know folks listening to this or watching, you had a little shift that happened, a little from the experience. And I'll have all the links so you can continue the conversation with Jen. And I hope you take advantage of the opportunity to try the products at that wonderful discount price, 30% off using Ande Live 30. Okay. And again, those links will be in the green room. Sorry, the show notes. Doing too much here at the end, thinking about it all. Okay. So I have to tell you who's coming up next on Friday. We have a Fab Friday female founder, and it's the one and only Irene Shabari. And it's this Friday, July 9th at 12 noon EST. And Irene is joining us to share how newbie founders can adopt an entrepreneurial mindset. And for over 10 years, Irene has been helping founders step into their entrepreneurial authority, instill a creative and innovative culture, and launch, manage, and grow successful, scalable, and sustainable ventures. She's the founder and CEO of Shabari Training and Consultancy and Cactus International, where she helps women in North Africa, Middle East, really step fully into entrepreneurship. And she's a faculty member at Harvard University Extension School and Harvard Professional Development Programs. Oh, she loves making sure the female founders have a successful win. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. I know you are with me, that we learned so much from Jen today. And we all took away something for our businesses. I know that to be true. Keep going, keep glowing. Please know I'm here to cheer you on. And until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day and a delicious experience everywhere you glow. Mwah! Until next time.